Hi everyone, my name is Albert, one of the co-founders at VectorShift. Today we're going to talk about how to build an invoice automation through the VectorShift platform. How we're going to build this is we're going to have a pipeline that triggers when a new email enters into an inbox. We're going to then extract attached invoices from that email. For each invoice in the attachments, run a pipeline, extract information such as the date, the vendor, the names, the amount, and then pipe it into a structured database format like a Google Sheet. Let's head over into the VectorShift platform to show you how to build this. Whenever you have a pipeline that you want to start when something happens, you want to use a trigger. So in this case, let's use a Gmail trigger and say we want this pipeline to start when a new email enters my inbox. In this case, a new email with attached invoices. So we're going to select the trigger event for a new email. Then we're going to select the email that you want to use as the triggering email. And then you want to select the specific mailbox within the email. So I want this pipeline to trigger whenever a new email enters the inbox. So I'm going to select inbox right here. All right, so we have the trigger set up. We now need to be able to create a process where we want to extract each of the attachments, run a pipeline for each of the files to do this extraction that I just mentioned. So you can see here, there's a data field within this Gmail trigger called attachments, which is of data type list of file. The reason why it's list of file and not file is because you want to be able to handle the case where the email could have multiple attachments, right? So you want to be able to run this pipeline and extract all the data from 4 or 5 different attachments and run the same process on each of the attached files. So whenever you're handling situations where there's a repeated action, you want to use something in VectorShift called list mode. And what list mode is you want to build a pipeline that can handle the case for one invoice in this case, and then you want to call that on repeat for all the items in the list, right? So let's show you how to do this. So let me give this pipeline a quick name called Invoice Master Pipeline. And we want to actually create now a pipeline that takes in one file, instead not a list of files, right? Handles that correctly. And then we call that on repeat back in the master pipeline so that we can see that run in parallel. All right, so let's head back to the pipelines page of VectorShift. Let's go ahead and click New and create a new pipeline. So as I mentioned, we need to be able to take in one file. This is going to be called Invoice. And we want to do a few things with this. Usually when you're processing invoices, you want to do data extraction, right? You want to extract relevant data. You might want to categorize the expense, and you want to put all this data into Google Sheets. So let's go ahead and first extract the relevant information. We have something called an extract data node. So we want to take the text from the invoice, right? And that's the text for extraction. And we want to extract a few pieces of information here. Let's just say we want to extract the vendor, the amount, and the date. So I have some pre-written text to help us here, but basically we want to have the date and the amount in the right format. We want the date in the right format so that all the data is really standard. And here, we have now extracted from this file 3 fields: the vendor, the amount, and the date. Finally, we want to also categorize the invoice across a few different fields. So we can take out another AI operations node and let's use the categorizer node. So we're going to categorize this invoice into a few different categories. So let's call the first category food, the next category software, next category office supplies, and let's have a catch-all category called miscellaneous. I also have some pre-written text to help us go through this a little faster, but this is just a little description to help the AI categorize the information correctly. All right. So once we have the categorizer node filled out, we want to put this data into a Google Sheet. So I have a Google Sheet over here that just has the four categories of information that we're extracting or categorizing, right? The vendor name, the category, the amount, and the invoice date. So let's head back into VectorShift and pull out a Google Sheets node. And we want to be able to add a new row for each invoice that we receive, right? So let's click Add New Row. Let's click Next. And we have to pick the file that we want to add the data to. So I have it called Invoices Database. Select the file, select the sheet. And as you can see here, the four columns that are shown in the Google Sheet are shown right here within VectorShift. So let's go ahead and connect all this data up to this Google Sheet. So the vendor is found within Extract Data. The category is from the categorizer. The amount is from the Extract Data node. And the invoice date is from the Extract Data node. There we go. So let's summarize where we're at so far. A new file comes in. We extract three pieces of information: vendor, amount, and date. We categorize the invoice into one of four categories, and then we pipe that data, the vendor, category, amount, and invoice date, into Google Sheets. So let's touch up this pipeline a little bit and summarize all this data so that we can write a summary email back and return this data back into the master pipeline. All right, so let's create a text node that basically contains all this information so that we can pass this all to a large language model. So there's vendor, that's coming from the extract data node. There's category, coming from the categorizer node. There is amount, coming from the extract data node. There is invoice date, coming from the extract data node. All right, so let's take this data and let's pass it to a large language model. And I have a pre-written prompt that basically says, write a summary of all this information and then pass it right back. So let's connect this text to the large language model and to the prompt. And then we want to return this data out from an output node. There we go. So let's summarize this pipeline. We are taking in a file, we're extracting the data, categorizing the invoice, put it into Google Sheets, and also in parallel, we're consolidating the data into a text node, and then we have an LLM that I have prompted to write a concise notification based on this summary, and then we're going to send that out from an output node. I'm going to name this pipeline Invoices Sub Pipeline. Make sure to deploy the pipeline. And let's head back into the master pipeline now to actually hook this up and finish the automation. So let's go into Invoices master pipeline that we started with the Gmail trigger node. We need to now use the pipeline node and find the pipeline that we just created. And you can see on default, we have upload as the default entry for the invoice. We want to switch that to variable because we want to be able to take the data from the Gmail trigger and pass it to this pipeline node. As you can see here, we actually can't connect this node right now to the pipeline node because list of file doesn't match file. So we actually have to turn on list mode so that we can take in a list of files, not just a single file, so that we could run this pipeline on every file in this attachments list. So let's go ahead and now select attachments. So now what we're doing is an email could come in. It could have 3 invoices. We're now running the pipeline that we created on each item in the list. And then we're already piping that automatically to Google Sheets as 3 rows. Let's now wrap up the pipeline. So this output node is now putting in, now passing back data, the summary notification, as a list of text. Right, that doesn't look that friendly in an email. So we have a node called join list items. You can find that in list ops, join list items, which takes a list and flattens it down into text. That looks a little bit neater, when sending an email because your users of the pipeline probably are not very used to using lists as opposed to just seeing regular text. So let's join by new line so that each invoice would be a new line, and the list to join would be the output list of text right here. Let's go ahead and select that. And now let's send an email back so that the user gets a notification over email whenever all the invoices are processed. So let's go ahead and take a Gmail note out. We want to use send reply in the same thread that we just used. So let's click next. We're going to send this to the same email of the person that sent it. So let's go ahead and select Gmail, send their email. The body is going to be the notifications of all the invoices, a summary of all the invoices that are processed. Let's go ahead and select join list items, join text, and the email ID, just make sure that it responds to the same chain as the previous email. Let's go ahead and select Gmail, email ID. There we go. We have the pipeline now fully built. Let's walk through it. A new email comes into the inbox. We triggered the pipeline to run. There could be a list of invoices. We run this pipeline on every single invoice in that list. We extract the data, we categorize it, we put it into Google Sheets, we write a notification that comes back. We have a list of notifications here. We flatten the list of notifications. We send that as the body back in the thread, back to the person who sent it so that they have a notification and they can see the invoices that have been processed. The final thing you have to do is click deploy changes so that now the automation is live. Just go ahead and check that enable automation is on again. Let's go ahead and see this pipeline in action. I'm going to head over to my Gmail. I'm going to send an email to the email that I've attached to the triggering email. Then I'm going to connect a few invoices in the attachments. Once it loads, I'm going to send it. Now, the email is getting sent. The pipeline will be triggered. And once it's ready, I'll get an email back in my inbox. There we go. We have the email coming back. A summary of the receipts. Within Google Sheets, the invoices have been added. Amazing. Thank you for your time. Let me know if you have any questions with this automation, and always happy to help. Thank you very much.